rewind. This is Dope Nostalgia.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 238 of the Dope Nostalgia podcast. I'm your host, Naomi. Today's guest is from a band who had such a massive hit in the 90s that it is still played to this day, especially at the end of the night in a bar or pub near you. Closing Time from Semisonic, a huge hit for the band. And today their drummer, Jacob Slichter, is here to talk about that hit, all the amazing things that Semisonic have done, and what they're up to now. So I'm very excited to welcome Jacob to the show. We're also going to talk to my friend Taliyah, who is a Gen Z, who's very knowledgeable about the 90s, and she's here to share some of that with us. We asked her a few questions about stuff she knows. Here you go. This is Taliyah. We have a few questions to you. Are you described as a Gen Z or a millennial?
A Gen Z.
A Gen Z?
Sorry. Yes.
But I feel like you know a lot about 90s music, so I'm going to ask you about some artists and you can tell me what you know about them.
Okay, sure.
We're going to start let's start with No Doubt.
Ooh, No Doubt. What can you tell us about No Doubt?
I can no doubt tell you nothing.
Who's the singer of No Doubt?
I have no
Gwen
idea.
Stefani. Bananas.
This shit
But that's
is...
not the same song,
No, I
is
know,
it?
but that's a singer.
Oh, I have no idea what song that is. But I know about Gwen Stefani.
Yes. No Doubt was her band
Interesting.
in the 90s, where she came from.
Okay.
She was in a relationship with one of her bandmates.
A boy or a girl?
Boy. Can't remember his name. Okay, what about...
What can you tell me about...
Ooh, Our Lady Peace.
Yeah.
Late 90s, early 2000s. Alternative,
no
rock,
idea.
Canadian.
You can think of your
I
own
only
Tasker
started
as well.
listening to rock last year, so
Yeah?
yes.
Who were you listening to from the 90s of rock?
Encore. Who sings that?
Who the fuck? Oh, Encore. That's Linkin Park?
Yeah, Linkin Park. I like Linkin
Oh.
Park. But
Is that
just
what
that
that's the one
song.
with Jay-Z.
Yes.
Let's ask her about Britney
her
Spears.
Okay.
About Britney Spears.
Ooh, Britney Spears. What was the most iconic Britney Spears moment that you can remember?
When she was bald
Yes, agreed.
with an umbrella.
Yes, agreed. Crazy.
Yeah.
Wild, deranged eyes. I love it. She took back her freedom that day.
That's true. Well, I think she just got it back actually, like last year.
Okay, true. But okay.
Okay, next question.
Do you know any of her iconic performances or music videos?
Of
Britney.
anybody or Britney?
Britney.
When she had a snake, a yellow snake, and she was performing.
That is a good one.
Dress. That was a good dress.
Yeah.
That was really good. What can you tell me about the Blink-182?
Ooh,
That is
Hello there.
Kourtney Kardashian's
angel
new
from my nightmare. The
husband,
shadow in the background of the morgue.
Travis Barker.
Travis, what's his name?
Travis Barker.
Parker?
Yeah. I know she's Kourtney.
Kardashian's husband and baby daddy.
Okay, let's ask her one more artist. Your pick, Erika, you pick. From the 90s.
How about Red Hot Chili Peppers?
That's not
That's
R&B.
not R&B
Oh,
or
you said
hip-hop.
R&B. Oh,
Where's the Spice Girls? Is that the 90s?
Yes, it
oh
is.
yeah, Spice World. Spice up your life.
I know about them.
Who's your
Victoria
favorite?
Beckham. I thought Victoria Beckham actually couldn't sing.
She could.
Did you know that? No, I'm pretty sure Victoria Beckham couldn't sing the whole time, and she was just there because she's cute. I seen that. On
She
TikTok
couldn't
the
even
other day.
smile. She didn't like her smile, so she just looked upset all the time.
Not posh Spice. She's very all posh. Look at her. Still
Do you have a favorite Spice Girls song?
If you want to be my lover,
Yes.
that's a good
And who's the best Spice Girl?
Baby Spice.
Scary Spice because she's black.
Nice.
That'll be-
Thank you, Tez.
You're very welcome.
Am I actually going to say that in the show?
Wikipedia moment.
Please bear in mind that Wikipedia can be edited by anyone at any time. If I'm reading you the artist's bio, then you know it's information straight from the source.
Semisonic is an American rock band formed in Minneapolis in 1995, consisting of Dan Wilson, lead vocals, guitar, and keyboards, John Munson, bass, keyboards, backing vocals, and guitar, and Jacob Slichter, drums, percussion, keyboards, and backing vocals. What a trio! They are best known in the US for their 1998 top 20 single, Closing Time. After the breakup of the band Trip Shakespeare, Wilson and Munson joined up with drummer Slichter to form the band Pleasure in 1993. And by 95, they had changed their name to Semisonic. An EP called Pleasure was released that year on Boston indie label Cherry Disc, and the studio full-length Great Divide in 1996 on MCA. Semisonic's breakthrough came 2 years later in 1998 when their second album, Feeling Strangely Fine, reached the top 50 chart on the strength of the hit single Closing Time, their biggest hit in the United States. During a 2008 performance at Harvard's Sanders Theater, Wilson said that it was originally written about the birth of his first child. Their international career also blossomed when another song from the album, Secret Smile, quickly became a UK radio favorite in the summer of '99, eventually peaking at number 12 on the UK singles charts. In early 2001, the band released its third album, All About Chemistry. The single Chemistry was a mainstay overseas. However, the album did not fare as well in the United States. Another song, Over My Head, was used in the 2001 teen flick Summer Catch, and Semisonic rode the wave touring various cities in and around the UK. Wilson had spoken about doing more Semisonic music in the future, but said, "The busy day-to-day life keeps pushing it further into the future." All About Chemistry would be their last studio release until reconvening for the You're Not Alone EP, which they put out in 2020. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you the drummer of Semisonic. Joining us for an amazing chat, this is Jacob Slichter. Yeah, welcome Jacob to Dope Nostalgia Podcast. I wanted to talk to you a lot about what happened in the 90s for you, as well as what you've been up to now, which is very exciting as well.
Cool.
I've been looking into that. I saw on YouTube, you recently did a podcast with Sean Nelson of Harvey Danger.
Yes, he's got a cool new series that he's doing where he talks to people about success and what comes after success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a smart show. I love the whole concept of that.
Yeah, he's a smart cat.
He's been on here too, and I really enjoyed getting to know him as well. Now, Semisonic formed in Minneapolis, but you're from Boston, correct?
No, I'm from Illinois. I grew up in Champaign, Illinois. I moved to Minneapolis. I bounced around the country. I lived in Boston for a few years, but I bounced around, and I moved to Minneapolis in 1990. And I would say Semisonic got started sort of in the summer of 1992, something like that.
Who was influencing you as a young person to make music?
Oh, wow. I would say anybody on AM radio. But I would say especially the soul and funk artists, Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, James Brown, Billy Preston, Bill Withers, the Spinners, all of those kinds of groups. Sly and the Family Stone was a big one. Those were sort of what found the sort of deepest part of my sort of interest in music. But I listened to everything. I listened to a lot of pop, and lots of music by artists who didn't make necessarily great entire albums, but who made one or two singles that were enough to just get me going. So I had a fairly wide range of listening, but I would say the deepest listening was probably focused on soul and funk.
And when I think of Minneapolis, of course, I think of Prince. There's a rich music history from that city. Can you tell me a bit about the heritage of Minneapolis? And I understand that Semisonic has like a Walk of Fame type star there. Is that true?
We have there's a club there called First Avenue, which is the Minneapolis's sort of most famous rock club. It's where the movie Purple Rain, where the performances in Purple Rain were shot. Minneapolis has a long, it's, well before I got there, there was lots of different things happening in Minneapolis. And the sort of indie scene that was going on in Minneapolis was well underway, and in fact had probably peaked by the time I arrived in town. I think of, not only Prince and The Time and Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, who produced, Janet Jackson and other artists. But then you also might think about bands like The Replacements, Husker Du, The Suburbs, and bands like the one that my two bandmates were in, Trip Shakespeare, which was a big sort of psychedelic, pop psychedelic group of Minneapolis of the sort of late 1980s, early 1990s.
That evolved into Semisonic, the trio.
Kind of. Trip Shakespeare was going full speed ahead, and then suddenly it sort of like it hit a speed bump, and all before you knew it, like they had decided to stop making music together, and that was kind of a stunner for all of us who knew Trip Shakespeare. Dan and John, who were my two bandmates in Semisonic, played in Trip Shakespeare, and we had always assumed that our band was just going to be a side project for them. It would be sort of like a big project for me because I was in nothing at the time. I was just sort of making tapes on my own in my basement. Mm-hmm. But Trip Shakespeare, they got dropped from their label rather precipitously. There was sort of like this disagreement that sort of kind of mushroomed. And I think it was getting dropped from their label that made them sort of ask themselves tough questions about whether or not they wanted to continue, because they've been doing it for so long and working so hard. So I think they felt like they wanted to take a break. And it was in that sort of space that Semisonic sort of became the main focus for Dan and John.
Mm-hmm. I find it exciting to learn about you that you are a teacher of creative writing.
Yeah.
Now, are you primarily a lyricist, or do you also write music? What's your specialty?
No, I write both. I write both music and lyrics. Nowhere near as prolifically as my bandmate Dan Wilson. But yeah, I write both.
Do you prefer writing with collaboration or solo?
That's a great question. I kind of will never turn down a collaboration. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, it's more likely to be done if there's a collaborator. Mm-hmm. Like there's just more impatience built into the process, maybe. Yeah. I also think like one impediment for me has always been my distaste for my singing voice. And that's a hard thing to get through if you're a songwriter, because you have to you have to record yourself singing what you're writing. And if you just don't like the process of listening back, that's kind of really hard to do. So if you have a collaborator who's a singer, awesome.
Good point. I know as I've been a writer in the past, it's always a matter of I had to get this down and record it immediately or I might forget it. So I understand.
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
Having to write, sing yourself a voicemail or something.
Yeah, no, that was, back in the old days, we would call our home phones and record onto the message machines. And like you get home and listen back to what you had.
Mm. Have you written for other artists or strictly your own band?
Almost only for Semisonic. John and I produced a singer named Kristen Mooney. And I wrote some of the songs on the album we produced for her. And I've written things here and there, but almost everything that's ever been recorded that I wrote is Semisonic.
In doing some research, Googling you of course, I learned about music that makes community. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, music that makes community was started by some friends of mine, Donald Shell and Emily Scott, who wanted to figure out how this sort of arose in a church context. And they're like, sometimes we want to sing things where we don't want to have to hold sheet music because, we'll want people to be lighting candles or handing out something or doing something. And so how can we develop a culture of paperless singing? And so they came up with some unique approaches, and I stopped in on a few of their workshops and watched things happen, and I sort of chimed in with some ideas of my own, and they enjoyed that, and we had a good time collaborating together. I don't do as much direct work with them anymore, but they're an international organization now. They started out very small, and now they're all over the world, and a lot of what they do takes part outside of church contexts, which is great. Mm-hmm. So like people, at a dedication for a new library or any kind of context where handing out sheet music is not going to work. But people don't know the song that they're being taught. That's where they kind of specialize in those kinds of things.
That would have been lovely to have in my choir days back in high school. But yes, well, that sounds like a great organization.
Yeah, it is. It's a great one.
Now it's 1998. The song "Closing Time" changes your life. Do you still love the song 25 so years later, or do you grow a resentment towards something you had to do over and over and over? How does it work?
Well, you have to remember that we didn't hear it on the radio nearly as much as everybody else. Mm-hmm. We were like riding around all day in cars, talking to radio stations and being at sound check and playing shows. And but I love Closing Time. I've always loved it. I loved it from the first time Dan played it for me in his house in the winter of 1997. And, it's been such a part of our lives, and it's touched the lives of people I know. And, after a point, I just kind of feel like, wow, I'm very lucky for something like that, to have intersected with something like that.
You guys have done something rare with a song like that, because this is a song that so many years later, people will instantly sing along to, and that doesn't occur very often.
Yeah. Well, I think a big part of that, you have to credit Dan for writing it and writing a song that is so eminently singable. I think what we did together as a band was just try to make that song, give that song a sort of sonic life of its own, and make it sort of jump out of the speakers the particular way that it does. But yeah, no, I think Dan has written several classic songs. For those who don't know, he co-wrote "Someone Like You" with Adele. He co-wrote "Not Ready to Make Nice" by the Dixie Chicks. He won a country Grammy for Best Country Song last year for the song he co-wrote with Chris Stapleton, "White Horse." So he's,
I love that song.
He's a very prolific and successful songwriter. So he knows what he's doing.
No kidding. Now, your Wikipedia stated that payola was how Closing Time got on radio. Now, how much was that being practiced at the time?
Yeah, it was very thick. It was the music biz was thick with payola at that time. No song got on the radio without payola. I mean, Closing Time was not unique in that regard. Mm-hmm. you just would not get on the radio without payola back then. So, and now they've allegedly shut that down. I kind of find that hard to believe. I don't have evidence to the contrary, but put it this way: capitalism is always going to find a way for money to open the doors. So, and that's how it worked in the 1990s.
So it's probably just more hush hush now, or done more sneakily.
Yeah, I think it could be either of those. Also, radio is no longer the primary way that people stumble onto songs. I think most people stream and listen to find other ways that they come across songs. I don't know that people are tuned into their radio stations like they once were. So it's probably complicated by that as well.
True. Although I think a lot of people still subscribe to Sirius XM, which because I'm trying to think like how difficult it would be to find new music if you don't have something aggregating that for you, other than, I guess, Spotify tells you, oh, you like this, maybe you'll like this.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that there's also there are powerful curators of playlists. But you would have to talk to somebody who actually knows about how it goes today, instead of somebody who knows about how it went back in the 90s.
And I like that perspective too. When you think about your most memorable performances, can you give us an example?
Well, I remember when Closing Time had just come out and we played a radio festival in Washington, D.C. at RFK Stadium. And, we had played radio festivals before, but we were never like a major draw for those things. But now we had a number one song on the radio. And I remember when we got to the first chorus of Closing Time, the power of the crowd response was so forceful that it almost knocked me off my drum throne. Like I almost fell off the drum set because it was so huge. And I'll never forget that. And I would say we've played 2 shows in Mexico City, and those might be my sort of 2 most sort of favorite sort of ecstatic shows in terms of just feeling connected with a crowd. They are so those fans down there are so generous with their energy and their response. It makes you wish you could play every show there.
I understand that about a lot of places in South America, that they're just so excited to see artists. They're excited to go to shows and, just show so much love.
They do. I mean, and it's not like they don't go to shows. I mean, they go to shows all the time. And I think there's just a sort of, they would do this thing. I remember in 1998, we played in this arena in Mexico City. And they would do this thing where they were, you remember flicking lighters at rock shows? That might be before your time, but it's not before my time.
Not.
People used to flick lighters and hold them up. But what they did in Mexico City is they would flick their lighters in time with the music. So like every time my snare drum hit every time my stick hit the snare drum, the entire arena would light up just like a flashbulb. And over and over and over again. It was just spectacular. It really makes you realize, I think, one of the realizations I had was that the crowd is the show. The band is the excuse for the show to happen, but the crowd is the show. The band plays at sound check, but it's not the same. It's not a show until there's a crowd there, and then it's a show. And the Mexico City fans put on an amazing show.
Feeling that response, that's got to be like a huge joy of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what album track can you think of from that decade of the 90s that you wish would have been a single?
From Semisonic?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe D&D from our second album. I think that's a song that a lot of fans just really gravitated towards, and every time we play it, it seems like people who have never even heard us before know that song, and that's kind of odd. But I think a lot of people have found their way to that song. That's one possibility. Another one is the title track of our first album, Great Divide. The song is called Across the Great Divide. That would be one.
And the sign on the door, D&D. Don't disturb us no more. I'd like you to make your love my hideaway, and I'd like you to make my troubles slide away, and I'd like you to make me wanna play forever here behind your door. Minute I got some space and time, I wanted to get me back in the crowd. Minute I got some peace, you found me trying to make my way to the loud. What a clown.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hi. If you enjoy Dope Nostalgia, thank you. Consider becoming a Patreon subscriber today for as little as $1 a month. It helps keep the show on the air and rolling. So if you want to check out our Patreon, it's at patreon.com/dope nostalgia. $1 a month, and you'll be helping support one of your favorite podcasts.
Hi, this is Desmond Child, and you're listening to Dope Nostalgia.
Let's Watch Something is a casual movie review podcast starring Anthony
and Jack.
Everyone loves hearing industry professionals talking about their craft.
That's not us.
We're just a couple of movie lovers.
Couple of nerds.
Talking about movies.
So come join us on Let's Watch Something.
With Anthony and Jack. Anchor.fm/LWS.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Let's watch something.
Let's watch something.
Let's watch something.
Let's watch something.
Soccer bopper, soccer bopper. You can sock all day and bop all night. Soccer bopper, soccer bopper. More fun than a pillow fight. Blow 'em up, put your hand inside, get ready to have the time of your life. Soccer bopper, soccer bopper. Sock 'em once and bop 'em twice. Soccer bopper, soccer bopper.
Soccer boppers, more fun than a pillow fight by Big Time Toys.
Soccer bopper.
Over mountains, that's where my love lives. A long, long ride to Sunland, here where I did this. Cross the great divide alone, wondering I've been afraid, arriving alive, unknown. Unknown, I'm watching every day.
I think if I had to go back and redo anything about our singles, it would simply be that our first single would not have been Down in Flames, but would have been a different song, FNT, which was later released as a single, but only at the point at which all the radio stations had given up on the album.
Fascinating new thing, you delight me, and I know you're speaking of me. get beside me. I want you to love me. I'm surprised that you've never been told before that you're lovely and you're perfect and that somebody wants you.
Who are some of the musicians you've worked with who are the greatest players? Have you done session work with other artists?
Well, we've done, let's see, we played, Dan co-wrote and a song with Bic Runga, who's a artist from New Zealand, and we played on that. It's called Good Morning Baby. That was fun. Let's see here. I mean, and out on the road, you meet and jam with all kinds of people, and you'll find astonishing things. I mean, for instance, I don't think most listeners know that Sheryl Crow has a master's degree in classical piano.
No.
Like, she presents herself as this sort of like guitar, sort of like this like guitar, this like hippie kind of, not hippie, but kind of, rock and roll guitar, blue jeans, and beer waiting for her on the side of the stage or whatever, kind of like rock chick kind of vibe. Mm-hmm. And she does her thing amazingly. But the range of her talent is so far beyond what I think most people think they're seeing when they see it. And I think actually meeting her and when we were being on tour with her, we'd hear her sit down and play these classical, Mozart or whatever during sound check. That kind of helped me listen a little more deeply when I'm listening to her, and just the depth of her musicality is pretty amazing. We went out with Amy Mann. That was the first big tour we went out on in support of an artist, and I think just hearing her sing every day at soundcheck was kind of just, you would just have to sit, you would just stop whatever you were doing and listen, because her voice and her songs are just amazing.
Impressive. 20 years ago, you put out a memoir, the book, So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star. I like how the cover states that how I machine gunned a room full of record executives and other true tales from a drummer's life. And I want to congratulate you on the success of the book. And can we still find it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's still there.
Good.
Yeah, it's still out there. And I think there are autographed copies at the Semisonic store, but it's available from all major booksellers.
Excellent.
Yeah,
I'm glad. I got to get myself a copy of that. But yeah, I know that must be amazing to think like how it got out there, and congratulations to you for writing such an amazing book.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Now, who have you gotten to meet that was a big influence on you?
George Martin. We met him in Canada at after a long day of doing sort of marketing kind of meet and greets. We went to a record company dinner, and he had flown over that morning from London to do his own promotional tour for some record of his. And we were walked into where he was having dinner, and I was almost too embarrassed for them to even introduce us to him, because I just wanted him to be left alone and let him eat and go to bed. But he pushed back his chair and stood up and spoke to us, I don't know, for like half an hour.
Wow.
And crazy. Yeah, it was amazing. I remember at the Grammy Awards, backstage, I met Lionel Richie, and he was somebody whose songs I grew up playing. His old band, the Commodores, was one of the bands that some of my early funk bands had covered. And it was great to he was so generous, and like another case of like there was nothing in it for him to talk to someone like me. But he took the time and was very generous and friendly, and I'll always remember that. And yeah, over the years we've met all kinds of people, and sometimes you're just like, in London we were riding the train and seated across from Jeff Beck, and we didn't even say hi to him. We just left him alone, but he's kind of like a star in our universe, and every once in a while we would just sort of brush elbows with somebody like that, and you don't even necessarily have to talk with them to just learn something about how they do it just by watching.
I like that you really take into consideration the respect for other artists as humans, and like thinking about, oh, we should just let them be and let them do their thing.
Well, I think like a part of it is just like I'm just like, I know that they're probably, I know what it's like. I think most adults are like people who work hard and are tired a lot, and they have limited resources, and maybe it's partly being an introvert and knowing how much energy it takes to interact with other people. So it could be any of those things. But
you have to be in the right mind space.
Yeah, and I think also you have to sort of think like, what is actually in it for them? And you have to be very sort of skeptical of whatever answers your mind is excited to come up with.
My thing is, I just don't want to say something they've heard a million times already. Yeah,
although maybe that's okay, actually. I think Dan went up to Paul McCartney once and said, I know you've heard this a million times or something like that, but I just like, your music changed my life. And as I recall, you'll have to track down Dan, but I think the answer was something like, you know what, I never get tired of hearing it. It always means something. So.
Special. That's good.
Yeah.
Now, A Little Bit of Sun came out in late 2023. And did you find that the pandemic affected your ability to get together to write and record, or were you doing it more after that lockdown?
Well, the pandemic wasn't really the thing that affected our ability to get together, because we were already living in 3 different cities. So the thing that just affected our ability to get together was just sort of our different life paths. But I think that, in 2019, or actually 2020, we released an EP, and the title track was You're Not Alone, which was completely unplanned, but it turned out to be the perfect message for a time when everybody was sort of in lockdown and very much alone. So hearing You're Not Alone was like a big deal. And then I think that after the pandemic, I think Dan, who wrote that, almost all of the songs on that record, including the title track, Little Bit of Sun, was sort of thinking like, now it's like we've done our time in the basements and locked into our houses. Like I just want to come out and just see a little bit. I want to just know that there's brightness ahead of us.
Now you're going to be on tour this summer with Toad the Wet Sprocket, Sixpence.
That's right.
KT Tunstall. Yeah. This is an incredible lineup. What's on the rider for you guys? What do you always want to have ready for you?
Apple juice for me, because I'm a type 1 diabetic. And I think our rider is like the most disappointing rider probably in the history of rock. Like water at room temperature so you can drink it if you're dehydrated, and if I could have one thing on the rider that would be impossible to put on there, it would just be peace and quiet. Like when you're out on the road. We went out with the Bare Naked Ladies and Delamitri, and it was super fun. And we're playing these big arenas. Or these big sort of amphitheaters. But even so, there's like when you're traveling, there's you're on there. Each band is on its own bus with its own crew, and it's pretty tight quarters. And then backstage, you've got one dressing room for each band. And then the stage is right nearby, and it's just all day long. It's either equipment being set up and checked, or sound check, or show. And you would just kill for a moment of peace and quiet. So that would be my Semisonic rider request, would just be like a soundproof chamber or something like that.
Smart. You didn't keep it nice and sensible, right? We could go out, maybe go out for a nice walk if there's like a lake or a park or something like that. That might be helpful.
I do that, although generally speaking, you're like conserving as much energy as you can. And also the amphitheaters just tend to be out in the exurbs. They're not really near parks. They're not near anything. They're near highways.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those like, when next time you go to like an amphitheater, see if you don't drive by a bunch of like buildings with tinted windows and fake man-made hills and ponds in front of them where real estate sales offices are. And then there will be like long rows of like storage facilities and then the amphitheater. That's what you got out there.
You have a great point. The last one I went to, was Shoreline Amphitheater, and it's right across the street from Google.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then Tinley Park in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we don't have many. I'm in Canada. I'm in Western Canada, and we don't really have that much for amphitheaters here.
Maybe. I'm trying to think of amphitheaters we may have played in Canada, and I'm not thinking of any. I think we toured some amphitheaters with Bare Naked Ladies back in the 90s, but I'm not sure that we went to Canada with them.
Yeah. Their homeland. But Toronto's Molson Amphitheater, that's a good place. But
okay, cool.
I'm in Edmonton, and we don't really have anything like that, which is unfortunate.
Well, maybe or maybe not. Maybe you've got some wonderful indoor alternatives.
We have a brand new arena, and it's beautiful. And
Awesome.
the Edmonton Oilers play there, so we're happy with it. Okay, I have a few frivolous questions for you. When you were younger, did you sign up for Columbia House's 12 CDs for a penny?
Indeed, I did. Yeah.
Do you remember any of the albums that you got?
Yeah, let's think here. I got a Jim Croce album. I got Barry White's Greatest Hits, I think. Did I get a Carly Simon album, maybe? I don't. That's as far as or maybe Chicago 6 was one of the albums. I'm not sure. That would have been about the time, but who knows?
And I'm curious to know if people actually finished the requirements and purchased the 3 CDs they were supposed to, because no one did. No one did.
No way. And there's a funniest story about this in my book, and I won't spoil it for you, but it actually came back later to kind of almost like it came back at a very key moment in my journey as a musician. I'll put it that way.
Now, have you ever considered starting your own podcast?
No, I haven't. I don't even know what I would talk about. I like talking to people, but I think I'm pretty busy. I've got like drumming and writing and teaching, and that sort of leaves me kind of exhausted. I have a blog that I called Portable Philosophy that I've put stuff up on. I don't know that what I have to talk about is the most clicky, clickable subject matter. I think I just like thinking about my own sort of art stuff, and I think there are a few fellow travelers, but it's sort of like all the parties I ever went to when I was coming up earlier, is like, I like talking about things that like one or two other people are interested in talking about, and the rest of the crowd is off over there doing things. So I don't know that any podcast I would ever do would be especially marketable.
But it's going to appeal to the people who are those.
But the people who are there are going to love it. All three of them. Yeah.
Do you collect vinyl at all?
I don't. We don't have room in our apartment here in New York for even a turntable. So, I mean, I have vinyl, and I get vinyl copies of Semisonic records when they come out, just to have them in case. But no, I don't collect vinyl.
And basically, if you look back at the 90s and there's all kinds of trends happening, what food, clothing item, toy, etc., what would make you nostalgic for the 90s?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think that, I guess like the one item that makes me think the most about the 90s might have been, you remember when Prince had that very customized guitar with his logo on it?
Yeah.
You know, if I could get one of those, I think I'd probably be pretty happy. But it would have to actually have been one of Prince's. But yeah, that's probably, if I see one of those, it puts me instantly in a 90s frame of mind. Yeah.
I think he played that in some of those videos with the new power generation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that era. That was a good time.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for your time today. I know your time is really valuable, so I'm very grateful that you shared it with me in the show. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you, Naomi, and thank you, everybody who listened.
Nobody knows it, but you've got a secret smile, and you use it only for me. Nobody knows it, but you've got a secret smile, and you use it only for me. So use it and prove it. Remove this whirling of sadness. I'm losing and bluesing, but you can save me from madness. Nobody knows it, but you've got a secret smile, and you use it only for me. Nobody knows it, but you've got a secret smile, and you use it only for me. So save me, I'm waiting, I'm needing, hear me bleeding, and soothe me, improve me. I'm grieving, I'm barely believing now.
Social media, yeah, we've got it. Send us an email, dopenostalgiapodcast@gmail.com. Twitter, Nostalgia Dope. Or on Insta, dope_nostalgia.
This podcast is licensed by SOCAN because we believe that artists should be paid for their work.
Hey there, music lovers. Did you know that getting licensed to share music online is not just the right thing to do? It's also super important for supporting creators and the music industry. That's why we're proud to be licensed by SOCAN, a copyright collective that grants licenses for online music broadcasts in Canada. By getting licensed through SOCAN, you ensure that every beat, every note, and every melody that you play is compliant and fair to the creators. Join us in supporting the music community. Visit SOCAN's website at www.socan.com and get your web radio, podcast, or any other use of online music licensed today. Let's stream beautiful music together, legally and ethically. SOCAN. Music, people, connected.
Hey, friends. I kind of miss getting those messages on my answering machine like we used to back in the day. What I'd really love is to hear from you. the listeners of Dope Nostalgia. This is your chance to be on the show, giving feedback, telling us what you love, what you hate, and who you'd like to see more of. Call us at our new toll-free number, 1-888-741-9192. Leave us some feedback. Your message could be played on the show. So give us a call, 1-888-741-9192, toll free.